The chart barely moved. The account did. A trader can be right about direction, right about timing, even right about risk, and still leave the trade wondering why the result felt worse than the move itself. That feeling is usually blamed on psychology. Sometimes it should be blamed on structure. Not every CFD broker is dishonest, not every bad fill is manipulation, and not every loss has a villain. But in many retail CFD environments, the broker is not just a neutral bridge to the market. The broker may be the market maker. The flow may be internalized, and when that happens, the trader needs to understand a simple fact. If your losses help the house, the structure deserves more scrutiny than the strategy. Most new traders obsess over entries. They compare indicators, they replay setups, they argue over 1-minute versus 5-minute confirmations. Very few ask the more uncomfortable question: who is actually on the other side of this trade? In an exchange-traded market, orders interact inside a centralized structure. Prices are formed in a public matching process. In many CFD models, that is not what happens. The broker may quote the market, warehouse the risk, and decide how order flow is handled behind the interface. To the trader, both screens can look professional, but one is a market, the other is a dealer environment. That difference changes everything. A clean interface can hide a messy incentive model. If a broker runs a B-book model, client flow may be internalized rather than passed through. That does not automatically mean abuse, but it does mean a conflict can exist. The client loses, the house keeps the difference. The client wins consistently, the flow becomes expensive. Once you understand that, a lot of retail trading pain stops looking random. Sudden spread widening around sensitive moments, slippage that seems to lean one direction more often than the other, stops triggered on prices you cannot easily verify elsewhere, execution quality that feels acceptable when you're small and less friendly when you are not. Again, this is not proof of misconduct in every case. It is a reason to stop pretending the structure is neutral. Retail traders often treat platform friction as personal failure. They say, "I hesitated, I entered late, I should have used a wider stop, I should have accepted the loss better." Sometimes that is true, but sometimes the environment itself is shaping the result. A widened spread can turn a disciplined stop into an early stop. A poor fill can distort a favorable setup. Opaque routing can make performance analysis harder because the trader keeps blaming his execution while the real issue sits under the hood. This is one of the oldest problems in trading. People study behavior while ignoring incentives, and incentives are usually more honest than marketing. The most dangerous thing about an opaque trading environment is not that it always harms you, it is that it is difficult to measure when it does. If price formation is dealer-driven, if the feed is not the same thing as centralized exchange matching, the trader can spend months in a fog. He sees the quote, he sees the spread, he sees the fill, but he does not fully see how those things were produced. That creates a psychological trap. Every bad result feels ambiguous. Was that normal slippage? Was that a fast market? Was that a widened spread? Was the stop always going to go? Was the requote unavoidable? Did the platform simply do what dealer platforms are allowed to do? Ambiguity protects bad environments because ambiguity weakens accountability, and traders who cannot diagnose structure usually turn the knife on themselves. This is why the A-book versus B-book distinction matters. In simple terms, A-book routing usually means the broker passes the order flow outward rather than taking the other side internally. B-booking usually means the flow is internalized. That does not make one angelic and the other criminal. It means the alignment is different. In an A-book or exchange-routed model, the broker generally benefits from your participation. In a B-book heavy model, the broker may benefit from your failure. That is not a small technical detail. That is the business model, and business models shape behavior long before marketing admits it. This is one reason many serious traders eventually look toward exchange-traded futures, not because futures make them disciplined, not because futures remove risk, and not because every futures broker is perfect, but because centralized exchange markets offer a cleaner structural premise, public matching, regulated clearing relationships, more visible fee language. a market that does not depend on the broker becoming the silent counterparty to every retail mistake. A transparent structure does not save a bad trader, but it does remove one layer of unavoidable distrust, and for a serious trader, that matters. This is also why regulators have not treated retail CFDs like harmless toys. ESMA introduced restrictions for retail CFD trading that included leverage limits, margin closeout rules, negative balance protection, restrictions on incentives, and standardized risk warnings. The FCA has also warned that investors risk losing important protections when firms push them toward professional categorization or offshore arrangements. That does not prove every broker is acting against every client. It does prove the risk is serious enough that regulators saw the need for guardrails, and that should tell you something. A bad trader can lose money in a perfect market, but a decent trader can also be damaged by a bad structure. That is the part retail trading culture almost never wants to discuss, because hype sells setups more easily than it sells plumbing, yet the plumbing decides more than people think. Before you change your strategy again, ask a less glamorous question. Who benefits when you lose? If you cannot answer that clearly, you don't just have trading risk, you have structural risk. And structural risk is the kind that keeps teaching the same lesson until the account is gone.